people feel that pain. They feel
Mm-hmm.
hurt. They take it personally. So between the pandemic and social media, what's happened is that people are, I'll say people for now, women are feeling triggered even more. And then they don't have the tools or resources that they need. They don't even know. A lot of the women that I coach don't even know that emotional regulation is the issue. Some do, but some don't know, and they don't understand like how the brain works or how that happens.
Welcome to Soul Engineering Your Life and Work. I am Ravi Tangri, and this is about how do you bring more light, more heart, more soul into all of your life, into your work, into your play, into your community, family, everything that you do. What are the tiny little leverage points that can really elevate and transform your life? And my guest today is Elevate Results Coach and Strategist Jen DeTracey. Now, Jen works with women solopreneurs and leaders who are struggling with imposter syndrome, who feel isolated and sometimes overwhelmed. She helps them become empowered, focused on their mission-driven purpose with confidence, clarity, and support. Jen is an Elevate Results Coach and Strategist, and she works with women to uncover hidden opportunities for strategic growth. So welcome, Jen. So grateful to have you here.
Ravi, so great to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it is a delight. I'm excited about what we're going to chat about. So what I'd like to dive into first is, Jen, something that's really important to you is emotional regulation, self-empathy, acceptance. And I love this, bringing the joy. My word for this year is joy. So I love that. Why is this, especially the emotional regulation, the self-empathy, why is it so important today?
It's so important, Ravi, because most people haven't grown up with parents that were able to give that to them, which
Ah,
means they can't give it to others, let alone themselves.
okay.
So how do we in this world right now receive empathy from people that don't know how to give it? We get it from giving it to ourselves first, just like you hear the pilots or the flight attendant talk about putting on your own air mask first before putting it on to someone else. So how do we do that so that we have more control in our life about how we feel and surround ourselves with the support that we need, especially when others don't have that skill?
Right. So there's a couple of thoughts that pop up in that. First of all, I would think particularly sometimes I'm curious and I don't want to pigeonhole, but do you find that you work primarily with women, that actually giving empathy to yourself first is a challenge because it's about, and again, I want to be careful about stereotypes. The stereotype is the caring for others. Do you think that that's a challenge that people have, actually making the time to give to themselves?
Well, people need to first understand that it's possible. Because when we think about time, we might or might not make time for things.
Right.
And, yes, I work with women. I also have supported men with this work too. So, we as human beings don't even know that we have the ability to do this. I didn't
Right.
know.
So,
And,
yeah, I was just thinking because the research shows that as much as we've advanced, so much of childcare, so much of elder care still falls to women in households. Men just don't, for the most part, don't carry the load. And for women, I would think it's more about care. Their programming is more care for others versus themselves. Is that still true?
I I think the word that I would use is expectation.
Okay,
And
good.
I would even talk about that from my own experience in my family when my dad had cancer and how my brothers were able to show up and how my sister and I were. And it was different. They were there when it was easy.
Ha.
They were there. They did not want to have to do anything physical with my father, like basically wipe his butt. They didn't want to be involved in that. That was something for some reason they couldn't do. Whereas for me, I looked at it and my sister as well as this is a human being that needs care. And I love this person and I'm going to take care of it.
Okay, I love that. The where you put that, how they show up. The other question I have is, do you find that the need for this has increased since the pandemic? Because my experience has been with people I work with that, I really believe a lot of people came out of the pandemic with PTSD, but have not treated it. But to some extent, it was traumatic because, I mean, we were washing groceries. We were terrified of what we would touch, and it was do you find that the need for this has grown?
Yes, I do. I think there's several reasons, the pandemic being one, and also because of social media and how many of the clients that I coach use that as medicine, as a way to soothe themselves, but it doesn't work. And
Wow.
as Brendan Bouchard talks about this idea that once we as human beings spend time on social media actively, like not just 15 minutes here and, a couple times a day or something, but hours at a time, we're making decisions every moment. We're judging. Yes, no, yes, no. So we come into a society where we're judging everything even more, and we can also hide behind something. So people can express things that they don't like, and people feel that pain. They feel
Hmm.
hurt. They take it personally. So between the pandemic and social media, what's happened is that people are, I'll say people for now, women are feeling triggered even more. And then they don't have the tools or resources that they need. They don't even know. A lot of the women that I coach don't even know that emotional regulation is the issue. Some do, but some don't know, and they don't understand like how the brain works or how that happens. And so, yeah, I think there's many factors happening right now.
And I mean, emotional regulation is one of the big builders of resilience, right? So, what are some of the simple things that people can do for themselves in terms of emotional regulation, in terms of self-empathy to move forward?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think it's important, first of all, to be able to slow down for a moment and recognize, hey, I'm really upset right now. Like I'm activated. Some people use the word triggered. Some people don't like that word activated. I'm activated right now, and just take a moment. Often it can't, even for me, doesn't always happen right in that moment. But as soon as the awareness is there, is the breathing, which you talk about and you have in your podcast, like breathing in deeply and just slowing things down. Nice deep breath in through the nose, fill that belly up with air, and breathe out through the mouth. Or however someone wants to breathe. I'm not like a big mouth breather, so I say go, have at or do
Whatever.
it the way that you want, right? And there are different methods in breathing, and some of those work for me and some of them don't. And I think everybody's going to be different. The key is to stop before doing something that we regret. Sending the email, responding to a post on social media, you know, going towards someone and in that moment saying, this isn't work. I'm dumping you. Like those things that big things that happen from a moment of being triggered, which may be a combination or like a buildup over time that's not even representative or reflective of that particular situation that's happening.
Right.
And in that is a ball of shame. Usually underneath all of that, there's a lot of shame too, right?
Right. I mean, it takes it's a journey and it's deep work sometimes to do this as you go forward. Something you said, wow, it really struck me. You said that they turn to social media to soothe themselves. And I reacted viscerally actually to that when you said that, because I mean, when I think of social media, what happens, the word that immediately comes to mind is doom scrolling. And that is not in any way soothing, but it's fascinating that you found that what draws them to it is to be soothed. And yet it does exactly the opposite. And yet we do that over and over.
Yes. And also it's the distraction, right? It's the distraction from the discomfort of being with oneself in a
Right.
moment,
Gotcha.
and or the habit system that's there where it's very hard for us as humans to emotionally regulate if we're not sleeping well. And you can imagine this work, even in the work that I do with some younger people that are striving to be leaders that are not leaders, is they're in this place where they have a habit system of having their phone with them when they
Mhm.
go to bed and scrolling. And then they end up in a hooked, as Pema Chodron would say, the Buddhist teacher, hooked in that. And before you know it, it's late and their brain hasn't had a chance to settle because they haven't
Right.
had time away from the screen. And now they're judging and things are activated. And now their amygdala and their lid, their brain, the upstairs brain is flipped. And that's how they're ending their day.
Right. And that's one of the things I talk about is one of the biggest builders of sleep, which is the biggest builder of resilience, is no screen time for an hour before. Right. And that's just from the visual, because it's the blue light makes you think, but you're adding all these other emotional triggers. But it's so hard for people to go away from that, to actually charge your phone in a separate room, not beside the bed. So it's not what you grab, and to do something else, to walk, to talk, to read. It's so hard for us to break away from that, isn't it?
It is. And I coach a lot of women around bedtime routine because self-care there's a deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So scrolling really is not the antidote.
Right.
So if a woman can go into her bathroom and take the time to maybe there's ideas that clients have said to me, have a bath or take that time to do their full skincare routine and have already punched away from their phone and really give themselves that. That's what I love about a bath. It's almost like for me being in the womb, like it's this comfort place. I know not everybody likes baths, but it's like the gifts that we can give ourselves in small ways help us to, I believe, love ourselves more and be able to feel calmer more often.
Something that popped in my mind as you were speaking. I'm wondering, is there some sort of, it's a sort of a double layered question. Is there an illusion perhaps of connection when you go on social media, which, second part of the question, suggests possibly that people may be feeling more disconnected in life today? Do you think that that's part of what's there, why people grab for the phone to feel connected?
I think it's FOMO, fear of missing out. There may be a desire to connect. I think it's a way it's a go-to to manage stress that doesn't work. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I witness. It's really, at the end of the day, it's not about connection because I just coached someone last week that said both them and their partner in bed at night scrolling together,
Oh, yes.
right? So that's not a connection. I mean, it may be connection in the, oh, we're both doing it.
Yeah.
But in my mind, in terms of connection, that doesn't define connection.
No. When you've got literally someone there.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just the, this is they're not simple things, but these are the things that are important. But the emotional regulation part is, from my learnings through Sarah Payton, is a conscious approach that happens usually after being triggered where there's a bit of space and the capacity, because we still feel the feelings in our body. It's not like they go away. Our nervous system is still activated, even if we get distracted by something else, washing the
Mm-hmm.
dishes or even going for a walk. Even if we're doing the healthy stuff, it doesn't really completely change the fact that if a situation happened, an argument with a friend or a partner or an email that came through, that's still most likely for most people in their nervous system.
Right. Yeah. And the chemicals that triggers can go on for hours. That's true. So you mentioned Sarah Payton. Who are some of the other thought leaders that you've turned to in that you draw on for, for your work?
Well, what I would say is, before Sarah Payton, I started at a certain juncture of my life where my life changed dramatically, to start soul searching around, what's it like to be a human being? Like, what can I learn that I don't know now? Because my life has just changed and I feel that I need to find some answers. Gosh darn it. And so, through joining a meditation group and attending those kind of things, and then getting connected with a woman named Susan Piver, who wasn't very known at that time and has written a number of books. And one of those books was around, what do you deal with? How do you deal with your emotions when a relationship has ended? And for me, at that time, it was just a pivotal time of asking myself the questions like, do I really want to repeat the relationship dynamics that I have maybe historically
Mm-hmm.
experienced? Like, what the heck's going on here? And really diving deeper into that. And I didn't know that at that time that Susan Piver was a Buddhist, when I just was recommended the book by someone. Hey, check out this book. And then that led me to authors like Pema Chodron, who has certain practices that she teaches. And that became the beginning of me working on compassion and awareness, but it wasn't as deep as I wanted to go. And that's when Sarah Payton, really, her and Eric Bauer at that time, showed up in my life so I could really learn how to emotionally regulate, so I could learn how to give myself and others empathy.
Right. Now, when you talk about Sarah Payton, is there a book of hers that you think would be a good entry point for someone who's exploring this?
Well, this is a good question, because she has a workbook called Your Resonant Self,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really good. Her actual book that she came out with prior to the workbook, Your Resonant Self book before the workbook, it's good, but it's dense. And I know for some people, they can get through that really well. I listened to some of it on audio, but because I had already studied under her and learned in person, I think that the way she teaches and all of the classes she has online, and those ways are the best way, honestly, to learn from her.
Okay.
I know some people are digital read, so reading is their pathway, and that works best for them. I think an introduction would be even going to her YouTube channel, to Sarah Payton, Peyton, and looking at putting in emotional regulation and
Right.
seeing what she has to say as a starting place, because the way that she speaks and teaches is with so much warmth and
Mm.
has a certain energy to it that's very different than reading her book.
Right. So you're very passionate about this work, and you've alluded to this, that you had sort of a perfect storm of challenges that hit you some time ago, and it it channeled you into this work for yourself, but also with your clients. Can you share a bit about that journey and what you learned that you can now support your clients with, that gives you a new insight or new resources to bring to your work?
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. So just over 15 years ago, I was out doing a speaking tour, and my left hand stopped working. My leg was dragging. It didn't hurt. And by the time I got back from this tour, my lip was drooping. So the left side of my body was just not working well. And finally, I got myself to emergency. And within 24 hours, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I had I had severe inflammation. I had severe inflammation of the brain, and they had to give me 3 days of steroids to get it down very fast. And anyone being on steroids, it's like the Incredible Hulk, you know? It's like I was so tired, but I had energy, and my emotions were off the Richter scale.
Okay.
And even, just being diagnosed. So when I finally finished my 6 months of my contracts where I was doing full day trainings, I could barely get out of bed. And at that point, I had to ask myself, who am I now? Like, what if I could never work again? What would I be doing? I've totally wrapped my whole identity into my work. And at that time, I went to a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and she just happened to be a person that hadn't worked with someone with multiple sclerosis before, but she brought to my awareness the most important thing was coming to a place of acceptance about my diagnosis. So I don't say I have MS. I say I live with it. It's just a part of me. And
Right.
it took me a few years to come to accept what I could do, what I couldn't do, how my life had changed. And through that acceptance, I then was able to go deeper and explore nonviolent communication and empathy work through Sarah Payton and Eric Bowers. And what that woke me up to was that it's possible. It's possible to soothe my nervous system on demand. Like
Mm.
I can do that when I'm aware. And it's amazing how, can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please do.
So fast forward many years to last year. I was upset. I had an argument with my partner at that time, and I was out on a walk to go pick up our gluten-free pizzas, and I was coming home with them, and I felt a lot of anger about that conversation that we had had. And it was a difficult time. And I was carrying those pizzas, and I started to say to myself, okay, Jen, where's that anger in your body? Okay, it's in your chest. Okay, just breathe in, breathe out. Okay, just acknowledge that feeling's there, that anger. And then as I breathed in and breathed out, I welcomed it in.
Mm-hmm.
And as I welcomed it in, I just let that happen. I was walking home, and I felt my body calm, my nervous system calm. And then I felt a lot better. And I set the intention that when I walked through that door, I would have a great evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't take much to do that, with practice, of course, and with the support sometimes of someone else to guide. And for me, it's like, that's how I want to live my life. I'm going to have all my feelings. They're all going to be there. And that's okay, because when I allow myself to feel, that feeling, instead of getting bigger, gets smaller.
Right.
And
Yeah. And that's what most people don't realize. They're afraid of being overwhelmed and carried away, but feelings are meant to be felt and then they leave. It's when we bottle them up that they just,
yes. And that's a lot of the coaching that I do is around that. And you're right. The other piece, I think, Ravi, that's important is, it's one thing to accept, like to allow that feeling to be there. I say, like a beloved guest coming into your home, welcome in that feeling.
okay, I love that.
Because then, for some people, it's a cat. Welcome, like a beloved cat coming into your home.
Okay.
So whatever that is for that person, allowing those feelings to be there and not pushing them away isn't enough, because before we have that feeling in our consciousness or in our awareness, the fact is, and you've mentioned this, is that we have the feeling in our body first. So with self-empathy, the most important thing is to not only name the feeling, but to identify where it is in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I'm welcoming that feeling in to my chest area, I'm welcoming in that feeling, but I'm also acknowledging where it is. Because how can I gauge if there's a shift, if I in that feeling in my being, if I don't connect with the body? Because before we have that thought, it's already in our body. And this is the piece that when I'm coaching, a lot of women don't know that. They don't know that it starts with that even before we get the awareness of what that is.
Right. And I think that's really powerful what you're saying about, the welcoming, because a lot of times I think, am I right or wrong that there's a lot of judgment? Oh, I'm angry. That's bad. I'm scared. That's a bad. And so it's perhaps the opposite of welcome that most people react, the way in which they react.
Yes. I think there's two parts to that, right? There's that connotation that anger is negative or whatever that feeling is. And secondly, there's that fear, at least I've heard this from some women, that the feeling will get bigger if I allow myself to have it. Like I won't be able to stop crying, or I won't be able to function if I allow myself to have this feeling. And so it's really multi-layered.
I, it's very much so. I mean, as you probably know, I've done a lot of exploration on surrender and letting go. And it is, especially with intense feelings, it can be challenging. But again, do you find that it's like working with a muscle? You don't start with a big honking stuff. You start with stuff that's perhaps a little milder and then build your capacity. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And what I do that's a little bit maybe different is, if everything we do is for a feeling, whether it's a negative feeling or a positive feeling, self-empathy is one piece of it. So to welcome in the feeling and allow it to be there and notice what happens in the body. Where does it shift to? What happens? So that's a guided process, but it can have women can do that. Men can do that on their own. The other piece of that is that once we're there, like once, let's say I'm guiding someone through that process and they get to that place, they shift from anger in their stomach to a little bit of spaciousness. And then in that
Mm-hmm.
spaciousness, I'm asking them what's there instead, like what's in that little bit of spaciousness. And they're like, well, there's a little bit of calm. And I'm like, okay, let's go there. Because they've already acknowledged the feeling that they don't like. Now we can go to the desired feeling, and we can expand that.
Right.
And maybe they get to a place where that feeling moves around in their body, and it may come back to that stomach, or it may move to the shoulders or someplace. And at that point, they feel maybe some peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I invite them to dial that up, that feeling in their mind's eye of peace, so that when they leave with their homework, they're not learning necessarily to emotionally regulate. I'm actually inviting them to step in, attached with a habit in the morning, before, after their coffee, after they go to the bathroom, to step into that feeling that they had peace, that they had in that moment. We test it out. And if they can do it during the session, they can bring it back again, and to dial that up and feel in that, because that's another way to train the nervous system. So there's
Yes.
self-regulation in terms of dealing with the feeling, but there's also, now that you've done that today, let's see if you do this for a week, you dial up that feeling of peace or joy in that part of your body that you feel it the most, and be with that. And let's see if we can train your nervous system, just as an experiment, to feel more of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's two parts to it. Yes, it's important to learn to emotionally regulate. Absolutely. But sometimes if the client can get to a place where they can feel that, and then we talk for a few minutes and they can step back into that feeling, if they're willing to commit to the experiment, they'll notice over the course of that week, maybe it's a little easy to talk to their manager, their boss, to talk to difficult employees, to deal with a difficult client in their business, because they're now starting to learn to calm their nervous system on demand.
Right. And yeah, I love that. And it's what you're talking about, if I'm getting this right, is you're starting to change the habit from the disruptive feeling to being more in the habit of being in the peace more often. And that becomes more of your norm, your set point as you go forward. Am I right?
Yes, to invite them to know, hey, you actually know how to feel peace. You know how to feel joy. So let's put the flashlight on that. Let's shine some light on it and see how that feels for you. I think the combination of both is ideally important to know how to do the emotional regulation, and also to be able to start the day with something that feels good.
I love that because it's not just about dealing with a caca. It's about, okay, let's establish this norm of peace and flow.
Yeah. And the more someone can practice that or integrate that into their daily routine, the quicker when they need it, they can bring it up. Maybe not in the moment when they're most emotionally activated. They start to notice that when they feel joy or peace, they're like, oh, here it is now. I know what it feels like. I'm consciously aware. Oh, this is a joy moment.
Yes. And they can be much more present in that. I love that. I love the journey and the process that you're talking about that you can take through, plus some of the things you've identified that people can do on their own as well, from just as simple as making that time to breathe to that awareness of where the feelings are and just the presence. Now you have a resource for the participants, and we're going to come to that in a moment. Check it out, check it out. Are you ready for this? Right now, I would like to pull things together, jump into our lightning round and don't get anxious about it. Just go into that piece.
I'm going to be totally zen right now.
No right or wrong answers because it's all the right answers because it's yours. So no thinking, just first response. Introvert or extrovert?
I'm hybrid.
Oh, an ambivert. Okay, cool. What's the most favorite job you've ever had?
Job, not before I was employed. I mean, before I had my own business job.
Oh, it can be your own business. What part? Because you've had a couple of different areas of focus in your business too.
Yeah. Well, back in the old days, I used to work in the music business.
Oh.
And I used to work for Sarah McLachlan's record label. That's how old I am. And I really loved connecting with the fans. My job was to build the mail order department to make it profitable during the days of snail mail. And that was a really fun time in my life.
That's fascinating. That's cool. What's the goofiest thing you've ever done?
Oh gosh. Goofy. Well, I guess I could say that inner goof is buried. For me, it's like just like going into a laugh spiral with a friend, where we just can't stop laughing. And I just love that. Like it's just so visceral and so fun. And it just is so natural. I don't know if I'd call that goofy, but
I love it.
Kind of a public. I don't mind doing that in public.
Yeah, where you just can't stop. You get out a couple of words, not even a sentence, but I love that. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Compliment? Actually, before I started coaching, people would tell me, you're a really good coach.
Great. And what's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
Failure. Gosh, so many. I guess I would say around raising my daughter, because, at that time, her mother, who I was with, had serious mental health issues. And for me, I had never parented before. And I think that I needed to, when things ended and I left, I need to have I sat down with my daughter and I said, I love you so much. And I've done so many things horribly in this time that I've raised you. And I just want to let you know I'm really sorry. And anytime you want to talk about something that is alive in you or that you're really upset about, then I'm here for you. Like, I want to own it.
And so what did that teach you? How did you learn from that?
What taught me, well, humility,
Mm-hmm.
in a bigger way. It's about, I think I've never, as a person who lives with dyslexia, I have very, I have not seen myself as a perfect person ever. I see myself as perfectly imperfect. I think what I learned was that I could do something different than my parents or my friends' parents did, which is deny that there were problems. So for me, I think it was the courage to really head down a different path.
Okay. I like that. Now, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an actress.
Ooh, okay. Well, you've taken to the stage. I love it. You've still got that. What's your most important ritual?
Uh, what I do almost every morning after meditating is I put my feet up the wall and I do a loving kindness practice. And that practice is, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful, may I live my life with ease. I do that for myself, then I do it for family, then I do it for someone I don't know or someone who's needs it, and then someone that I really don't care for at all on the planet
Yeah.
with, and then for all beings. And that's a part of my daily practice.
Wow. Who do you most admire?
You know what? I really admire my daughter. She's had a lot of adversity in her life and she's such a strong, willful human being. And she had a late start to her post-secondary education because she didn't know what she wanted to do and just her life circumstances. And, now she's out practicing as a therapist and is doing what she loves. And I'm so proud of her.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you nourish yourself?
Mm. Well, I talked about baths,
Mm-hmm.
having baths. I love just being in the water and feeling that warmth and comfort. To me, that's self-love.
Okay. And what do you want to be remembered for?
Mhm. I would love to be remembered for being the person that is full of love for all human beings.
And what's your purpose in life?
My purpose? My purpose is to empower others, other women to really experience their own life in a way that they can celebrate themselves. I think celebration is so important
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't happen enough.
I love that. Yeah, you're absolutely right because we're so busy doing. We don't, and we don't celebrate ourselves enough.
Yeah, exactly. And celebration can be a small thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be pulling out the balloons and the cake. It can simply be saying, I feel really happy that I made this decision. And I want to share that with someone that this is what happened today. And I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. Or it can be giving yourself a bath.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Or for some people, especially on the hot day today, going to buy an ice cream.
Absolutely. So now if people want to find you, your website is elevatedresultscoaching.com
Yeah.
and you,
Elevate results
sorry,
coaching.com.
elevate, no D, result. And you have a special resource for them, 5-step process, step into confidence. Can you speak a bit about that?
Yeah. It really comes back to what I was saying earlier. It's about imagining a time in your life where you felt confidence, and then just going through the steps to feel that more and more within 5 minutes, and then building a practice around feeling that each day. And
Okay.
it's a PDF that breaks down the steps. It's that easy.
And how can people access this?
All they need to do is go to the website, elevateresultscoaching.com, and it will be right there at the top,
Yeah.
waiting for them.
And we'll put the link in the notes as well. So
Awesome.
Thank you again, Jen, so much for joining me. This has been an absolute delight to catch up on all that you've been doing. As I said, we've known each other a long, long time, but it's been far too long since we've had a chat.
Thank you, Ravi, and thanks for all the work that you do to support leaders that also need support around emotional regulation.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. This is Ravi Tangri. This has been Soul Engineering Your Life and Work, and we will see you next week.
I've got the energy, it's all I need to finish.